Well, welcome to the Old Classic Car channel. Now, yesterday the post lady, came bearing gifts in the shape of this. This is a replacement rocker assembly, hopefully suitable for the little standard. Now, it all looks very cleaned up. So I think the first thing I'm going to do, I've had a quick blow through these small drillings here, which allow the oil through and lubricate the rocker shaft and the rockers themselves. So I'm just going to oil this up. It all feels a little bit dry. It looks like it's all been cleaned up, maybe in some old petrol or a cleaning tank or something, but I think it's just going to need a bit of oil just to lubricate things when it first starts up. I'm hoping that this is a much better rocker assembly than the one on the standard at the moment, because as if you've watched some of the previous videos on the standard 8, you'll know that it is just a little bit chattery at the top end. I'll just go and fire it up and just to remind you what it sounds like at the moment. Just move the camera in a bit closer. Even allowing for, oh, there we go, it's just stopped. And the engine is still cold and the choke isn't fully on. But yeah, it's quite chattery at the top, and all the signs are. At first I thought it may be the timing chain, but I think now this is probably the rocker assembly. Right, yeah, we're just going to run some oil all the way around. Anything that moves, like around here, just going to put some oil, because obviously it takes a little while for the oil to come up. You don't want it running dry, so we're just going to oil everything that we can, including the rocker shaft here. I think possibly the springs, these springs that go between the rocker arms, I think one or two of these may be a little bit weak on the rocker assembly that's on the car, so it'll be interesting just to compare it. The first thing is we'll just pop a bit of oil everywhere basically, just so that she's not running bone dry when it eventually starts up. Obviously when you take all the rocker assembly off, you have to reset the tappet gap. We did cover that in a previous video as well, but I will touch on it again today. But yeah, we'll just get some oil all the way around here. Usually these little Triumph engines, or the little standard engine rather, they're usually pretty quiet. This is certainly way noisier at the top than any other Spitfire or standard engine I've had, because I've had a couple of standard 10s before, which is the same basic engine, just the 948cc version of this particular unit. This one is a lot more chattery at the top compared to them, so it would be really nice just to get it quietened down a little bit. That's an initial oiling up. So we're going to take the rocker cover off, and the rockers off the engine itself now, I think. Does seem to breathe a little bit heavy, and there's a few fumes inside the crankcase, so I'm wondering if maybe the breather on the side of the engine is blocked, so that's another job to do, but not today. It's pretty clean in there. I did give it a bit of a clean out a little while back, and the oil is changed. I did change the oil not that long ago, so I'm going to put that somewhere where it's not going to get dirty. And the next thing is to remove this rocker assembly here, and it is held on with 1, 2, 3, 4 nuts there. Not quite sure what size they are. 9/16, that's handy. Trusty spanner of the day. There's a Gordon Tools handley. It's got 1/2 inch on that end, as you can see there, 1/2 inch AF. On this end, there you go, 9/16. That appears to be moving the entire stud. That's not the end of the world. Just do it a bit at a time, I think, rather than fully releasing it. Certainly that's what you do with a cylinder head. If you're taking the cylinder head off, you do it in order. Most workshop manuals have the order of nut loosening and tightening, just so that it comes off in a fairly uniform way rather than all at one end, and it risks distorting it a little bit. So it may not be as critical on the rocker assembly, but it seems like a good idea to me. So we'll just whiz this off. Try not to lose any of the nuts in the process. And we'll see where we go. I mean, this obviously isn't a classic car restoration channel at all. This is just me tinkering with things, so none of this is a recommended way of going about anything at all. It's just a record, as much for my own benefit, to be honest, because it reminds me of what I've done and what I haven't done and what I need to do. Apologies for any racket next door. Now, that's all 4 nuts taken off, so in theory this should lift off. Obviously the rocker arms here, they push on the valves, opening and closing the valves. And on this side, the rockers are operated by push rods that go down towards the camshaft, which is down the side of the engine. So let's get this off. Right. So that's the rocker shaft off, so I'm going to go and put that on the bench, and then we'll just compare it and just see if there's any obvious signs of wear here. Certainly oily. Okay, well there's the 2 rocker assemblies. This is the original off the car, and this is the replacement, which I've just been oiling up. They look to be the same part, so hopefully it'll go on without too much mither. We'll back off these adjusters before we try putting it on the car, and then hopefully it'll all go back together fairly easily, and even more hopefully it'll quieten it down a bit, because that chattering was just driving me a little bit potty. Now what I have noticed is, I was just backing off the adjusters on the replacement rocker assembly, and this one appears to be seized, and looking at it, it looks like someone's had a bit of a go at that because it's already fairly chewed up. So I think we're going to have to get a bit of heat on that, just warm up the lock nut, which is this here. So that's the lock nut, and the screw is the adjustment when you're setting the tappets. So they appear to be stuck together, so I think we're going to have to heat up the nut, and hopefully that'll expand more than the adjuster does, and it frees it all up. And I will probably I will remove one of the adjusters off the old rocker assembly and replace this one, because when the screw's all chewed up like that, it's not much fun to try and set the tappets when you're dealing with chewed up metal like that. So the first thing is I'm going to go and get some heat on this and try and free it up. There we go, that appears to be coming, I think. I think this will probably take several goes just to free it up, but I'm pretty sure it'll free up okay. So I'm just going to keep applying heat, spanner and screwdriver, heat, spanner and screwdriver until I can get the lock nut fully off, and then I can change this over. Right, well, this lock nut, despite several applications of heat, just does not want to move at all. So what I've got here is plan B, which are a couple of nut splitters. And basically you just wind these on, you open them out and you wind them into the nut, and this pointy bit here gradually pushes into the wall, the side wall of the nut, and in theory splits it off. So that's the bigger one. This is the smaller one. It's not great quality, this thing, but it's worth a go. So really all I'm going to do is put that on there, and hopefully it might just work. It's still quite hot to touch, this is, because obviously I've had the blow lamp going on it. It's just a fraction small, this one. It won't quite slide over the nut, so I'm probably going to have to use this larger one, which may be a bit big for what I need to do, but never mind. So that goes on there and tightens up onto the side wall of the nut. So I'll just go and find an appropriate spanner for that. Okay, there it is. So I've got my trusty brittle spanner. I'm just going to wind that on, and hopefully it'll break the nut off. This is quite handy. It's a handy tool if you want to preserve the thread that the nut is on. You go in very carefully, and you can eventually peel off the nut. So this is just starting. I want to make sure I don't damage the rocker itself. So I'll just keep going with this and just see if it breaks it off. If worst comes to worst, I can angle grind it off, but it's a bit of a brutal way of going about things, so I'm just going to persist with this for now. And the nut is beginning to peel away now, so I can probably take this off altogether now. I don't know if you can see, but there's the cut. So really, there's not a great deal of metal holding this on now, so I might just give it a quick tap and see if it'll start to come off. Oops, watch the microphone. Yep, she's certainly coming now, so certainly looking pretty mullered. I don't think we'll be using this again, but it is coming off now. So I can't get a normal spanner on there anymore, so just whatever does the job. but as you can, I hope you can see the split where the nut splitter dug its way in, and as it digs its way in, it splays out the nut, which gives you a chance of getting it off. Like I say, I could have used an angle grinder, but that's a bit brutal and you risk damaging the actual rocker itself if you're not very, very careful. So if I can get this off, I can put a better, just pick one off the original rocker assembly, and that can go on instead of this one. But clearly someone had mullered it in the past and just put it on the shelf and left it. But it would have been pretty annoying if I'd bolted all this onto the car and then couldn't do this adjustment and had to take it all off again. So we'll see if we can get this turning now in here and get it out. Right, so this will now hopefully just screw out of the rocker itself. The threads are probably a little bit iffy, but in theory, with a bit of persuasion, that'll come out of there, and then we can go and take a better one off the old assembly. That's the plan anyway. At least it's a nice sunny day, the mist has gone, so that's good. Well, in theory, that should screw all the way out, but it's getting stuck about here. And because where the screwdriver goes is a bit chewed up, it's not going to go out all the way. So what I'm going to have to do is to get out the angle grinder and just lob off the end. I'll just take this out of here. See that? This here, that should screw out of the rocker arm there, but it's only going so far, so what I'm going to have to do is try, ouch, that's hot, try and cut this bit off so that I can just wind it out that way, because this the ball end is too big to go through the rocker, so this top has to come out this way. But I'm just going to have to figure out a way of cutting this off without damaging that or that. So that could be exciting. Well, that was a bit of a fight to get off. There's the ball end. There's the thread, complete with the mullered screw adjuster. And there is the nut that was removed using the nut splitter. So fortunately, I should be able to pinch one of the parts from the original rocker assembly to replace these, because I don't think I can use these again. But it's one of those half-hour jobs that just seems to be going on and on and on. Okay, well there we go. That is the replacement adjuster, tappet adjuster. That's off the old rocker assembly, and that one came out easy as you like, unlike the one that was in here that someone had chewed up, mangled and was seized. So I think we'll just grab a quick bite of lunch, and then this hopefully will go back on the car over there, and then we can see if it's any quieter. Okay, well that is bolted back on now. I had a quick bite to eat, so feeling suitably energetic, at least briefly. So there, it's held on with these 4 nuts. You tighten them down evenly, and as you tighten them down, you have to make sure that the ball on there, on the bottom of that, engages with the push rod, because what you don't want is the ball on the underneath here to be pushing on the corner, on the edge of the push rod, because then you risk bending the rod as you tighten this down. So you want everything, you want to back off the adjusters, make sure these are lined up correctly as they go on. So that's all good. So I've got the trusty starting handle out. Very useful thing. If you've not seen it, I did a video all about the many uses of starting handles a little while ago. So I'm just going to go through these and adjust them up. It's 10 thou according to the book of words over here. I read it somewhere. Yeah. I'll just tap it to 10 thou inlet and exhaust. On some cars it's a different setting for the inlet and the exhaust valve, so you just have to check that. But this is 10 thou, 10 thousandths of an inch for both of them. So we've got feeler gauges somewhere. Where did I put them? I don't know where I put them, but anyway, we've got some feeler gauges. There we go. So that is the correct feeler gauge, 10 thou, and the metric equivalent, whatever that is. But yeah, we've got the good old imperial 10,000th of an inch blade there. So we're just going to go through using the rule of 9, which again I talked about in a previous video with the standard when I was showing Harley how to set the tappets. So I don't need to repeat myself now, so I'm just going to go through using the rule of 9, set them all to 10 thou, put the rocker cover back on, and then we can see if the engine is any quieter. I'm really hoping it is, especially after all that mither changing. I think it was this one, wasn't it? Was it that one or that one? I can't remember which, but it was a bit of a palaver swapping those over, so I'm hoping that it was all worthwhile. Fingers crossed. It's interesting that all these rockers look the same, apart from this one at the back here. So I wonder if that one's been changed at some point, but anyway, as long as it does the job, I don't care. Right, let's crack on. Okay, well, it's all back together again, so is it any quieter? That's the big question. Well, the choke's just worked its way in, but the answer to the question is no. It's made no difference whatsoever. So, I can only think maybe it was the timing chain all along. Well, that was exciting. Okay, well there we go. The car's back in place now. Now, was that a wasted day? Did I waste my time trying that other rocker shaft? Well, probably not. But it doesn't seem to have improved things at all. So it could be something else. Or it could be that the replacement rocker shaft is also worn, just like the original one that's on the bench here now. So who knows? Anyway, thanks very much for watching. More news as and when it happens, and there'll be more videos along very, very soon. So bye for now.